to previewing the 2025 college fantasy football season. And it may seem a little early and late, May, to be talking quarterback rankings for college fantasy football, but folks, it is not. We are focusing in on a first round of rankings here to talk about the Power Four, because we have some major tournaments going on here. We have the underdog tournaments that are going to be releasing soon. We've got the Scott Fish Bowl Tadpole Bowl, a great addition that I'm so excited about. And this is going to help you, even if you're not playing in one of those larger contests, this is going to help you understand where the Power Four quarterbacks fit into your college fantasy football season. It's going to help our Devy players. It's also going to help our folks that are just interested in getting kind of a jump on the scouting of the 2026 and beyond class. So, of course, we're going to have upperclassmen and underclassmen. There's a whole lot to get out of these episodes, John, and I'm excited. We're getting at it a little bit earlier than ever.
Matt, I'm beyond fired up because last year, our hobby took an incredible step forward with the first ever underdog CFF best ball tournament, and that should be hitting the streets very soon. So we wanted to jumpstart here. And last year, EA Sports came out with College Football 25 after a very long hiatus, and I think they introduced a new generation of young fans to college football. And of course, they brought in those like myself and you have been playing for years. And this year, Matt, you mentioned it. It's the first ever annual Tadpole Bowl by Scott Fish of Fantasy Cares. My good friend, Eric Froton at NBC Sports has been working with Scott on kicking this off. Matt, it's so big. They have 4 live drafts in year one: Austin, Atlanta, Minnesota, and Las Vegas. That's incredible. Now we're doing P4 because both the underdog tournament and the Scott Fish Bowl is limited to the Power Four teams in addition to Notre Dame. So we will have actually we don't have a Notre Dame quarterback in today's show, but we will have Notre Dame players moving forward. There are already nearly 500 people signed up for the Tadpole event. Go to Fantasy Cares. You can sign up for it right now. I literally did it half an hour before coming on the show today. And I want to announce we are having our 5th annual Kings Classic at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio. I will be out here. And here's where it's special, Matt. This year, we are giving away 1 ticket to 1 fan. We have 13 experts in the league. The 14th person will be chosen as a fan. If you want to get into the expo, now you have to be there live, the draft, as the fan. But if you want to get into the lottery, send me 100 to 150 words why you love college football and why you want to join the Kings Classic and compete against the best.
All right, fantastic. We're going to put links for the Scott Fish Bowl, Tad Bowl, and, of course, John's socials in the episode description, so you can check out both of those things to follow up on it. So let's go ahead here. We have broken down our rankings into 4 tiers to help you identify not only the rankings, but to identify the proper place. What's the proper ADP, the range that you should be looking to draft these players. And in our 4th tier here, so we're going to start in the bottom and move up, we have starting with Taylen Green, the quarterback out of Arkansas at 20. Jackson Arnold, formerly at Oklahoma, the starting quarterback now at Auburn. Eli Holstein for Pitt. DJ Lagway, the former freshman phenom from Florida last season. Thomas Castellanos at 16. You may remember him from Boston College. He is now the starting quarterback for Florida State. And Marcel Reed, who really jumped on the radar about midway through last season for Texas A&M. So 6 players here in Tier 4. And of course, we're going to take some time to go player by player. And John, starting with Taylen Green, the quarterback out of Arkansas, right away, right, we're talking about some dual threat potential.
I love this tier of quarterback. Every one of them have a little yellow flag, and that's why they're lower in the rankings. But Matt, if you told me one of these young men are going to be on the winning team in a giant tournament, I would not be surprised. Because if they hit their ceiling, these mid-round priorities could be huge. Let's kick it off. Taylen Green, Arkansas, 5th-year competitor, 2 seasons at Boise State. He started 26 games for the Broncos. In his first year at Arkansas, Matt, he started 13 games. You're looking at a young man with 39 starts under his belt. Last year for the Razorbacks, he had a career high with 3,154 yards and 15 touchdowns. But what we love about fantasy, Matt, 602 yards rushing. And in the last 3 seasons, Taylen Green has 27 rushing touchdowns. Last year, 324 fantasy points, and he averaged 24.9 fantasy points per game. Matt, he could be a difference maker, and his ADP is very low right now. Number 19, Jackson Arnold, Auburn. I've been a little disappointed, but I think my expectations were too high for this young man. In 2023, he was a 4-star recruit from North Texas and National Gatorade Player of the Year. He enrolls at Oklahoma. He started 10 games as a sophomore last year, Matt. He only threw for 1,421 yards, but his touchdown to interception ratio wasn't bad at 12-3. He enters the portal, and he landed at, to me, a perfect spot at Auburn. I'm a big coach, Hugh Freeze. Forget about off the field. That's a different story. But Hugh Freeze and his offense on the field, Matt, I'm all in. And the Tigers are loaded at wide receiver. Jackson Arnold has every opportunity to be successful. This is the year. If he's going to take a leap, I really believe this is the year now. Love him. He might be a top 5 fantasy quarterback at the end. Eli Holston at number 18 from Pittsburgh. Matt, going throughout this process, I started drafting in about mid-February. He is definitely the forgotten man. He was Max Prep Louisiana Football Player of the Year. He was rated as a number 29 overall prospect and number 5 pocket passer by ESPN coming out of high school. In 2023, commits to Alabama, doesn't really play as a freshman, and he transfers to Pitt last year. The opening 5 games, check out these fantasy points, everyone. 31, 33, 36, 49, 46. Matt, he was a star the first 5 games of last year, but then he suffered an ankle injury, and his production fell way off. Never bounced back, really. At the end of the year, he had 2,228 passing yards, 328 rushing yards, and 20 total touchdowns. Matt, I've got him in 5 of 6 leagues I've drafted already. He has a very low ADP with a high ceiling. I mean, when you're getting a player in the 21st round like a quarterback, Eli Holstein, I'm completely in. You mentioned the freshman sensation, DJ Lagway from Florida at number 17. 5-star recruit, everyone. The 2023 National Gatorade Player of the Year. Did I mention he's large, 6'3", 240 pounds? If you're doing a little summer research, check out DJ Lagway. There are some really impressive stuff. Now he's up and down. I'm not going to deny that. But there's also some really impressive plays. He played in 12 games last year, and he had 7 starts at quarterback. He's a 6-1 record. He totaled 1,915 passing yards and posted a 12-9 touchdown interception ratio. My biggest from a fantasy perspective, why he's lower here, and I know I'm higher than most on him. He had 51 rushing attempts for only 101 yards. That's a little concerning. And then Coach Billy Napier. In general, Matt, his offense has not produced elite CFF quarterbacks. However, I think he's the best quarterback that Napier's had, right? So you have to decide for yourself. Is Napier a good enough coach to unleash Lagway this year? 16, Thomas Castellanos. This young man, this is an interesting match with Coach Mike Norvell at Florida State. Both are coming off massively disappointing seasons in 2024. They need each other, Matt. Their careers are going to depend on each other. In 2023, Castellanos was incredible. 28.5 fantasy points per game for Boston College. He had over 2,200 yards passing, over 1,100 yards rushing, and 28 total touchdowns. But Bill O'Brien came over to take over the program at BC. Their skills did not match. Castellanos is a run-first quarterback with a good arm, but O'Brien wants your classic pocket passer. He wants the guy to read the defense and all that and not run. Castellanos was a square peg in a round hole. He was benched after 8 games and he left the program. I think he bounces back because Norvell, Matt, has to unleash Castellanos. He's got to keep his job. And the last player in this tier at number 15 with a massive ceiling is Marcel Reed of Texas A&M. He was a 4-star prospect, and he won Mr. Football in Tennessee. Man, how did the Volunteers not get this young man? I'm still trying to figure that one out. He was a dual-threat playmaker, and as a redshirt freshman in 2024, he replaced Connor Wegman, starting 8 games. He scored 23.8 fantasy points per game. He had over 1,800 passing yards, over 500 rushing yards, and 22 total touchdowns. I love the high ceiling as a fantasy player. He produced 4 games with over 32 fantasy points, which is perfect for a best ball tournament setting. You don't have to predict when he's going off. And that, my friends, is our tier 4 mid-round priority.
Yeah, again, Marcel Reed, Thomas Castellanos, DJ Lagway, Eli Holstein, Jackson Arnold, Taylon Green round out tier 4. And these are the guys where, if you are not going to invest a ton of early draft capital in the quarterback position, in these formats, you need 2 starting quarterbacks, right? And so even if you go for one early, you're going to want to make sure you snag one of these guys later on and not let it get too far away from you, because it can be a little tempting to let the quarterback position slide away from you, John. But it's a big mistake to make, especially when you're playing in any tournament-based formats. All right, tier 3, we're calling this the gotta get one. These are the guys where, John mentioned some bigger yellow flags with our first round of guys. These guys, we're feeling a little bit more confident in the system, in the player, sometimes both of those two things combined, right? And starting here at 14 with Josh Hoover, we've now got an experienced veteran quarterback at TCU that's proven to be able to execute that offense. And then at 13, John, it's a name a lot of folks might not know, but he's the next man up in the Lane Kiffin offense, and that's Austin Simmons. Sam Levitt made a big name for himself at Arizona State last year. He's coming in at number 12. Devin Dampier transferring from New Mexico State over to the Utes this season, and he'll be taking the reins of that offense. Demond Williams out of Washington had a really strong finish to his season last year as a true freshman for the Huskies. He's coming in at 10. And the last guy rounding out our gotta get one tier here is Kevin Jennings. He's mobile, he's a dual threat guy, and he's got the reins of the SMU offense. So, John, as we get into these players here, we've got a whole lot of upside, but a bit more floor as well.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, if I don't get one of the top 8 quarterbacks, I literally got to get one in this tier. And I would prefer to get 2, to tell you the truth, if I bypass those top 8. Josh Hoover, you mentioned it. He's played 23 games the past 2 seasons for the Horned Frogs. In 2023, he scored 19.2 fantasy points per game, 2,206 yards passing, 15 touchdowns. Last year, Matt, he jumped up 7 fantasy points per game to 26.2. Over 3,900 passing yards, and his touchdown to interception ratio is 27-11. The only reason he's at the bottom of the list, he's basically a non-factor on the ground. Minus 14 career rushing yards. So there is a little bit of a limited ceiling with Hoover, even though I think there's a really high floor map. And in Coach Sonny Dykes' system, it's CFF success. Like, this is a system proven where they put points on the board, especially fantasy points. Austin Simmons. Hey, we all want Lane Kiffin players. When you nail the players in his system, it is CFF gold. And Austin Simmons is now the Rebels quarterback with Jackson Dart going to your New York Giants, Matt. And when I've been studying him, my eyes were open. Matt, do you know he's only 19 years old from Miami? The young man has already earned a bachelor's degree at Mississippi after getting an associate's degree at Miami-Dade College. Now, he did one of those high school college programs where he was enrolled in college and getting credit. So he's now a graduate student. He's also a two-sport star. He's a left-handed pitcher for the Rebels. And in high school, he tossed back-to-back no-hitters. He's got an arm. And Lane Kiffin has been talking a lot about him in the offseason. There's a little risk because I've been burnt in the past when we expect these young men to pop immediately. But if he gets the role and he's efficient, he could have a really, really nice fantasy season. Sam Levitt, what a great year. He originally enrolls at Michigan State coming out of high school. And then last year he transferred to Arizona State. As a first-year starter, the sophomore led the Sun Devils to the Big 12 championship and the CFP playoffs. That was incredible, Matt. Everyone talked about Cam Skattebo, but Sam Levitt was really good. He passed for 2,885 yards, and he posted an impressive 24-6 touchdown to interception ratio. He also rushed for 443 yards and scored 5 times. From a fantasy perspective, he produced 337 fantasy points while averaging 25.6 per game. I love those numbers. His 3,328 total yards set a freshman school record for the Sun Devils at quarterback. They also have one of the nation's top wide receivers, Jordan Tyson. And we all expect Jordan Tyson to pop this year. If Jordan Tyson is going to pop, guess what? Sam Levitt is getting him the ball. Obviously, they lose Skattebo in the backfield. How much will that impact the offense? That's my one little bit of concern here, because Skattebo got a lot of first downs and kept the drive rolling, and he had some big passes that really helped Levitt. 11, Devin Dampier. If you didn't see him at New Mexico last year, everyone, you were missing out on this young man. He exploded in Bronco Mendenhall's offensive scheme. He scored 413 fantasy points and averaged 34.4 fantasy points. That's tremendous. He passed for over 2,700 yards and 12 touchdowns. Here's where the gold comes in. He rushed for 1,166 yards. And I couldn't believe this number, Matt. 19 rushing touchdowns. Now, he moves up in competition, and he transfers to Utah in the Big 12. Is it possible that he scores another 19 rushing touchdowns? I don't think so. That accounted for 114 of his fantasy points. Let's give him 10, and let's say he gets 900 yards rushing. I still like him, but that's why he's number 11. I just don't think he replicates those types of numbers on the ground. At number 10, a fascinating player this year, Demon Williams of Washington. There's a lot of buzz about this young man, and deservedly so. 5'11", 190 pounds. He was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school, and he guided his team to the state championship semifinals in Arizona. In 4 seasons as a starter, Matt, He started immediately as a freshman. He passed for over 10,000 yards and 93 touchdowns with 12 interceptions. He's a dual threat. His last year in high school, he rushed for over 1,100 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's a premier sprinter. He qualified for the states in the 200 meters and the 4x100 relay as a junior. The range of outcomes, however, for this young man is vast. We got a glimpse of him last year, but Matt, I've seen a lot of these young men, like we talked about with Jackson Arnold, right? They need a little bit of time to develop. So when I've been analyzing it, people might ask, how come you have Kevin Jennings over Williams? The reality is I've seen Kevin Jennings be successful. He's my number 9 player. He's at the top of this tier. Coach Rhett Lachey has guided the Mustangs to a 29-12 record in 3 seasons, and he has tutored Jennings every year on campus. Despite starting only 11 games last year, Jennings was a CFF quarterback 22, scoring 333 points. He passed for 3,245 yards and totaled 23 passing touchdowns. He was 9-2 as a starter. This is what I like a lot about this young man. He had 4 games with over 300 yards passing and 4 games with at least 3 passing touchdowns. He also scrambled for 354 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. Matt, the young man is lean and sleek at 6 foot, 185 pounds, but I've gotten him in so many drafts. I really like the high floor. He might not have that superstar ceiling, but man, give me those 25 points every week with 1 or 2 outbursts. That's my tier 3, Matt. What do you think?
I like it. I like it a lot, John. And as we move in here and get ready to talk about the second tier, I want to just show you a little bit of a recap, compare tier 3 to tier 4, and let folks know that if you want some more personalized college fantasy football advice, I encourage you, head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard and get in on our Discord where you can ask personalized advice for your college fantasy football rosters, your Campus to Canton rosters, your Devy rosters. You also get access to the Devy rankings, the rookie rankings, the dynasty rankings, and we like to put up college fantasy football rankings on there as well. We have weekly college fantasy football articles for you throughout the year to help you win those matchups. There's so much available over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. The link to join will be in the episode description. It's an exciting place to be, John, but so is tier 2 of these quarterback rankings. So this is where you get into the big names. This is where you get into the juicy ones. And I think what folks are going to be really interested in is not only the tier of guys here, which we're calling difference makers, but how do you know the right difference maker to get? And that's what we're going to get into here, starting with Haynes King out of Georgia Tech. What a career revitalization going from Texas A&M to Georgia Tech. And such a fun player to watch last year for the Yellow Jackets. And speaking of transfers, we have John Mateer, who was just an absolute breakout for Washington State. He goes to Oklahoma. It's a new team, John, but not necessarily a new scheme, and I'm sure you'll get into that as well. Sawyer Robertson for Baylor comes in at number 6. Garrett Nussmeier for LSU, potential top NFL draft pick in 2026, is also a top priority pick here for college fantasy football. And just one of the most fun players out there. It's Avery Johnson for Kansas State. He's coming in at number 4. John, some really big names to get into here in this difference maker tier.
I think an important strategy in these large tournaments, I'm going to be watching these tier 2 guys. Let's say I go for running back or wide receiver in the first round, and maybe I get another running back or wide receiver in round 2. Matt, in the 3rd round, if there's only one of these quarterbacks in tier 2, these difference makers, I'm going to pull the trigger here. I think it's very important to get one of these top 8 quarterbacks. And this tier is very important. It is so appropriately named difference makers. Haynes King, Matt. I have seen him go as early as the 3rd round. And in my latest draft, I'm in round 10 and he's still on the board. So I'm watching. Matt, he's a very volatile value right now in the college fantasy football universe. And I'm kind of shocked because I have Haynes King in 3 of my previous 6 drafts. In 2024, the numbers are different than the narrative. I think people think he was disappointing, but I disagree. In 11 games, the 5th-year competitor passed for 2,114 yards. He had a 14-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He rushed for 583 yards and 11 touchdowns. He posted over 20 fantasy points 9 times. Matt, that is a great floor. And he had more than 30 fantasy points in 3 games. And here's the one that I think is fascinating. Everyone was afraid of Haynes King in the playoffs against Georgia. You know what he did in the fantasy playoffs against Georgia? Scored 53 fantasy points, Matt. So throw away the narratives or the prognostication. This young man's good. And go back to 2023. He was even more impressive. 37 total touchdowns, a school record, over 2,800 yards passing, and 737 yards rushing. Matt, I'm going to have a lot of Haynes King if he remains low in the ADP because he's too good of a player. You mentioned John McTeer. If you're watching for the first time and you haven't been doing your research, you might say, how can the CFF quarterback number 1 fall to number 7? People, it's the system, the system, the system. Yes, was John McTeer amazing at Washington State? Without question. But man, Matt, I'm not impressed with Brent Venables. I have my questions with the Oklahoma wide receivers, the Oklahoma backfield, and the Oklahoma offensive line. So I have to drop John McTeer down in my rankings. Do I think he's going to be good? Yes, I do. Am I going to overpay for him? No, I will not. He threw for over 3,100 yards last year, 29 touchdowns with 7 interceptions. Love that. 826 yards and 15 touchdowns. But remember, folks, he played at Washington State in a truncated, is that the right word for Mountain West schedule? Like, it wasn't the highest level of competition. And now he moves up to the SEC. And Matt, he's a great quarterback at the college level, but I think his passing accuracy leaves a lot to be desired. Sawyer Robertson at Baylor, Matt, he's overlooked, and I love him this year. He completed 62% of his passes last year for over 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. He's not an uber rusher, but he had 230 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns. He scored 337 fantasy points, averaging 25.9. Those are really healthy numbers. Matt, he's going to challenge for the all-time Bears passing records. He's only 2,300 yards away passing for 3rd on the all-time list. Now, to catch 2nd place behind Robert Griffin III, the Heisman winner, he needs 36 passing touchdowns. I don't think he gets there, but I think he becomes pretty close. I like Sawyer Robertson at number 6. Now we're getting into the big boys. If you're into Dynasty or Devy, you need to know these names from now on for the rest of the show. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. His first year as a starter in school history, Matt, he set records with most passing yards, completions, attempts, touchdowns, and total offense in any Tigers quarterback his first year behind center. He completed 337 passes for 4,052 yards and 29 touchdowns. Why am I a little bit lower on him than the other 4 above him? Matt, he lost 38 yards rushing on 34 carries last year. I mean, even if he gave us 200 rushing yards of 4 touchdowns, It would be such a difference maker. Now, he did get 3 rushing touchdowns, but that's not how he wins, and that's not how he's going to be successful. Absolutely love Garrett Nussmeier. He's number 5 on my list here. He's also an early Heisman favorite, plus 900. That's an interesting number. I do like that. And my number 4. Oh, man, Matt, I think he's going to get talked a lot about over the summer. 6'3", 188 pounds. A little on the light side, but Avery Johnson at Kansas State, he's a good player, Matt. He guided the unit for the Wildcats. They finished 4th in school history in total offense, 5th in total yards, and 6th in rushing yards. In the air, he passed for 2,712 yards and 25 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 605 rushing yards and 7 scores. Matt, he's an awesome football player. I really like Avery Johnson. And he guided the Wildcats to school records with 6.57 yards per play and 6.1 yards per carry. Matt, I'm all in on Avery Johnson. He's my number 4. I love this tier. I can't leave a draft without one of those guys on my roster. What do you say, my friend?
A lot of good names here in tier 2 for sure, John. And as we're looking at the recap here, you're going to see Avery Johnson, Garrett Nussmeier, Sawyer Robertson, John Mateer, Haynes King, rounding out tier 2. But you can see he's a little bit smaller than each of tiers 3 and 4. But guess what? Tier 1, it's even smaller. It's reserved. It's only our top guys. And that's who we're going to finish up this episode with. Number 3, LaNorris Sellers out of South Carolina. Big dual threat athlete. Of course, Arch Manning out of Texas. And Cade Klubnik at the top. I would love to hear, John, not only how you ranked these guys, but if you feel like this is the order that these guys are going to come off the board consistently. Is there a little bit of choose your flavor that's going to be going on in drafts? What can drafters expect here, within the context of these rankings?
That's a great question, because I'll say this. These 3 quarterbacks in the 6 drafts that I have done are by far the cream of the crop. They are the first 3 off the board. But Matt, in fairness, they change. I can't tell you, I like Klubnik the best, but there are a lot of CFF managers and experts who love LaNorris Sellers based on ceiling. There's also some who will tell you Arch Manning's in the best spot. These are our rankings. We like Klubnik, Manning, and Sellers, but this is literally an all-American preview. Pay up now, win later. These are probably going to come off the board in the first 2 rounds of the big tournaments. They might all come off the board in round 1, Matt. Once people start delving into the player pool and they look at the ceiling of these 3 young men, they might go really quick. Hey, if you get one in the 2nd round, just be like, hey, man, that's a home run for me. Let's look at LaNorris Sellers first at South Carolina. And Matt, the drumbeat is starting to pound in the national media for this young man. He was the number 4 recruit in South Carolina in 2022 and the number 16 quarterback in the country. He's the only quarterback the Gamecocks signed that year. That's how much they were into this young man. And he spent a year learning the system before exploding last year. He does look like Cam Newton at 6'3" and 240 pounds, man. He is a dynamic dual threat signal caller. Last year, he was National Freshman Offensive Player of the Year, SEC Freshman of the Year, and 2nd team All-SEC. Matt, he was awesome. 2,534 yards passing, completed nearly 66% of his throws. Very impressive. 18-7 touchdown to interception ratio. What I really liked, he averaged 8.5 yards per attempt. That's a nice number for a player who's playing his first season in the SEC. 674 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns on the ground. Twice last year, he eclipsed 300 yards passing And in 2 games, he had over 100 yards rushing. Matt, that's just fantasy gold. I mean, the ceiling's so high with Lenore Sellers, but he is young. I mean, he's only played 1 season, and I'm not sure if South Carolina has the talent around him to allow him to hit the ceiling. That's my concern there. My number 2 is Arch Manning. And the reason why he's not number 1, we haven't seen it yet. Do I love what this young man has shown us in small pieces? Yes, I do. And let's just get it over with. He is from football royalty. His grandfather is Archie, and his uncles are Eli and Peyton. As a high schooler in Louisiana, he logged a 34-9 record, and he was all-state honors 4 times. He passed for over 8,500 yards and posted 115-20 touchdown to interception ratio as a high schooler. But here's the difference, I think, Matt, with Arch. He has his grandfather's legs. Archie Manning, everyone, was really good running the football. Eli and Payne weren't so good, but Arch is the young man. He had 1,155 yards in high school and 25 touchdowns. In the past 2 seasons, he's learned under Steve Sarkisian, and he was backing up Quinn Ewers. But we've seen glimpses, Matt. In 2 starts for the Longhorns, 21.9 and 34.3 fantasy points. But here's the game that makes fantasy fans, drool. He came off the bench against UTSA last year. He was the SEC co-freshman of the week. He had 5 touchdowns, 223 passing yards, 53 rushing yards, and he scored 44.2 fantasy points. I mean, Matt, that's the ceiling we're looking for. And I'll argue right now, I think the Longhorns are loaded. They reloaded the wide receiver position. They have 4 or 5 difference makers at wide receiver. Arch is going to be able to get the ball into their hands. Texas is also an early favorite to win the conference at plus 250. I think Arch is in a great spot to smash right away. And my number 1, what separates Klubnik from the other 2 in my book? 1, we've seen greatness on the field over an entire season. I'm going to go over the numbers. He was fantastic last year. And Matt, Clemson might have the best wide receiver quartet in the country right now. They are loaded at wide receiver. The 6'2", 210-pounder composed one of the all-time great seasons. He had 43 total touchdowns. He completed over 63% of his passes for 3,639 yards, 36 aerial touchdowns, and only 6 INTs. Man, he rushed for 463 yards and 7 touchdowns. He finished 4th in CFF with 449 fantasy points, averaging 32.1 per game. This young man is gold. You can say what you want about Dabo Swinney. You know what? I think he's managed this roster. We can argue about not using the transfer portal, but you know what? They've kind of grown up together, these young men. I think Clemson's loaded. Cade Klubnik is at the top of my college fantasy football rankings. What do you think about this pay now, win one later tier, Matt?
I love it. It's going to be a case-by-case situation here. And as we zoom out to see the full rankings by tier here, I really think it's going to be a situation for me, right? Can I pay up to get one of these quarterbacks early? I'm definitely going to be having builds where I can do this. I want to see how this plays out. I want to get one of these guys, John, maybe add in somebody from the back end of tier 2 in terms of ADP, really lean into that quarterback position. And I think you're going to be, I don't want to say scrambling, but there's going to be a little bit of pressure to make sure that if you don't get tier 1, you've got some good options at a tier 2 and 3. And tier 4, it's kind of your fallback, right? You don't want to rely on tier 4, but you need to know those names because they could pop and there's upside that you could use to balance that out. So there you have it, folks. Those are our top 20 Power 4 college fantasy football quarterbacks. if you want some feedback here, if you want to drop some questions on the video, feel free to do that. We'd love to have that discourse back and forth. But if you want to get that deep down personalized advice for your college fantasy football team, Campus to Canton rosters, Devy rosters, all that good stuff, join us over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Join the Discord and get ahead of your league mates. We're going to be back real soon with some more college fantasy football rankings.